playing a little bit of Oblivion.
You've been playing it?
Yeah. Well, not me personally. I've been watching Cody play because I just prefer that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I've never played Oblivion and I wasn't really into Skyrim either. But it's just making me laugh.
I'm shocked.
The hard zoom ins to people's faces crack me up every time. They'll be like walking through the forest and you think there's not anyone around you, and then suddenly it's like zoom right in. It's like, hi, traveler, and you're like, yeah, Jesus.
My favorite thing was the first time I ever played Oblivion. I did this in all the Legend of Zelda games where instead of running, I just roll.
Oh yeah.
So in Oblivion, I would just jump, but it would increase your acrobatic skill. And I increased it so fast, but my health was so low, so it got to the point where I would jump and it would kill me.
Oh, because you coming back down. Oh my God.
Take the fall damage.
I didn't even think about that. We've also been, I know I'm late to the game on this one for sure, literally, but Baldur's Gate 3 we picked up.
Nice.
Because I've just been having a real craving for Dungeons and Dragons, and that's exactly what it is, but video game style, and I've been really enjoying that. Cody picked up today something called Expedition 33.
Ooh.
I had never heard of it. It's by, I believe, a French studio or a studio out of Belgium, but I believe France. And Charlie Cox, like Daredevil, is one of the voice actors of the characters. And I won't say too much because if you guys are planning on playing it, I don't want to spoil anything. But I was pleasantly surprised at how beautiful it is. The music is really nice. The gameplay is interesting. If you like the Persona games, you might enjoy this kind of gameplay. It's almost turn-based style, but very stylistic, very nice.
I love that.
So it's been a really good week for video games, I think.
It hasn't been a good week for true crime.
That makes me so sad.
I have so much here.
Well, you mentioned in Saturday's episode, when Ed Kemper Part 3, you mentioned right at the end that your extra credit stories weren't going to be super happy either. No. I have an old-timey one to kind of break things up, but it's also a little bit gruesome. So I guess brace yourselves, guys.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Dina.
And I'm Charlotte.
Welcome to the Grim Curriculum Extra Credit.
Welcome, welcome.
So we have talked about the Innocence Project.
Many times.
Yes. Love the work that they do.
Yes.
Fantastic organization. But
oh no,
I can't say I agree with their latest case.
Oh, who have they picked up?
Scott Peterson.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that.
I know I don't feel good about it. So those of you who don't know, Scott Peterson is currently in prison for killing his 27-year-old pregnant wife.
Yes.
Lacey. Her body was found in the San Francisco Bay in April of 2003. So he is now 52 years old. So he's been in jail for a while. A jury found him guilty following a 6-month trial in 2004. So quite a short trial in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
He was sentenced to death in March of 2005. And in August of 2020, the California Supreme Court vacated his death sentence. And in 2021, he was resentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
Okay, so here's the thing that's confusing me, and I'm sure you'll explain and enlighten. If he is not going to be executed anymore, I didn't think that was the kind of person that the Innocence Project helped. I thought it was mainly for folks on death row.
They help people who are in prison for life as well.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah. So recently they exonerated a man who had spent, I believe, 36 years in prison who was innocent.
Okay.
He was proven innocent.
Okay.
The whole story with Scott Peterson was, it's very similar to the Chris Watts story where he was having an affair. The wife was pregnant. He killed her. Just a overall shitbag of a human being. And I read into this. I read their statement on it. They have a huge thing on their website. I'll be reading from some of it, but I really think their time, energy, and money can be used towards helping somebody.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to prove his innocence, or they're just trying to prove that he has served his time kind of thing?
Innocence.
Now that is interesting.
So they have filed a proposal petition with the California Court of Appeals to get a new trial for him. And his attorneys claim that they have new evidence in the case, including statements from witnesses who say they saw Lacey Peterson alive prior to her death, and evidence about a burglary that happened across the street from their home in Modesto the day that she went missing.
Oh, so they're saying instead of Scott being the perpetrator, perhaps it was the perpetrator of this other robbery as well.
They are also claiming that he was denied his rights to due process and a fair trial because jurors didn't hear the evidence over 2 decades ago that they argue could have affected the outcome of the trial. And they're saying that police and prosecutors didn't fairly investigate the case and that they even destroyed probably critical evidence.
Oh, well, that's not good.
So they're saying that this is a quote from them. They're saying this writ of habeas corpus presents new evidence that was not available at the time of the trial, supports petitioner's claim of innocence, and shows that he was wrongfully convicted. This new evidence undermines the prosecution's entire circumstantial case against the petitioner and shows that the jury relied on false evidence, including false scientific evidence, to convict him. The prosecutors are saying that the burglary had nothing to do with the Peterson case. So they filed a 400-page proposal.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yes, and they took up the case in January of 2024 and requested that items gathered during the original murder investigation undergo DNA testing. So back in May of 2024, a judge denied testing for 13 items that the defense requested. The one piece of testing the judge cleared to be tested was a piece of duct tape found on her pants after her body was pulled from the San Francisco Bay.
I think if they believe that there's evidence that could prove something one way or the other, I almost think a new trial has to take place. Because while I am not necessarily for this man's freedom and I don't necessarily believe in his innocence, I do think that if a trial was performed wrong in the first place, that it does need to be performed properly, if nothing else, to prove that he is not innocent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As much as, yes, something like that could prove his innocence, it could work against him as well.
Absolutely.
If the evidence is there to prove that he did it, it will show that. And if not, then maybe we were wrong all along.
It's interesting because they do very in-depth work, obviously, to be able to do the things that they do. So their petition includes a 126-page declaration by Scott Peterson, where he details the recollection of events around the death of his wife and unborn child and refutes the version of events presented by police and prosecutors to obtain a conviction. So they're saying the case against Peterson was entirely circumstantial, and despite 11 search warrants, wiretaps, GPS tracking devices, whole cameras outside the house, steady surveillance, and forensic examination of several hundred items collected during the execution of the search warrants, no direct physical or forensic evidence was found supporting any part of their theory, otherwise implicating Scott Peterson.
So they're saying that even though they had hundreds of pieces of evidence, it doesn't necessarily link him to the crime.
Yes. New evidence showing others who were involved in the burglary beside the two men who ultimately pled guilty to the crime. So they're saying that there were more people involved than they originally thought.
Oh.
They're saying a witness overheard a conversation among the burglars about Lacey seeing and confronting them.
Oh, so they're now saying that the burglars saw that she had seen them. She went over to confront them, and then whatever resulted in her death and disappearance.
And on a totally ridiculous note, the family who was affected by the burglary had the last name Medina. So it keeps talking about the Medinas, and it's a little distracting.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, because it talks about the Medina burglars.
Oh.
But what they're saying is that she was alive after the burglary took place, and it was the time that he left the house. So they were saying that he killed her and then left the house, but what they're saying is that he left the house and she was still alive.
Well, I mean, that would make a humongous difference to the timeline of events. Absolutely.
They're also saying that the jury didn't hear about, again, a lot of important evidence, including a mattress that was found in the back of their van that had apparent blood stains on it. And it did test positively for that blood. And that van was ultimately set on fire.
Oh.
So there's so much information here. Like the bit that they have on their website is probably, I would say, 20 pages long.
Holy cow.
And
it's crazy to think that some of these lawyers, and I know it's just not like one individual lawyer, like it's an entire legal team, lawyers and paralegals and all this, but they're essentially writing books.
Oh, yeah.
To, prove one thing or another. I can't imagine having to do that kind of stuff for work on a regular
It's a lot.
Very in-depth.
They also say that they have new sworn statements by eyewitnesses who reported seeing Lacey walking the dog in the neighborhood after Scott left the home. And they're saying that police originally refused to interview these witnesses.
That is very interesting, but I will say eyewitness accounts are notoriously unreliable.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we could do an entire episode about this because there's so much information. And we might in the future as things start to come out. But if you want to know more, it is on the Innocence Project website. The whole thing is written there. There is so much information, and it's one of the things where I went into it thinking what we're probably all thinking is fuck Scott Peterson.
100%.
But looking at all of this, I think, and I didn't really think of this until you said it, it's not necessarily about whether or not he's guilty, because I still think he is.
Yeah.
But it's about ensuring that he did get a fair trial, because at the end of the day, that is what's important.
Absolutely, because if he is truly guilty, if he did do what they said he did, what he's in prison for, and they didn't do it properly, then you, again, start to look into mistrials and all of this stuff getting dragged up 2 decades later could be, if he is guilty, it could mean his release, his wrongful release. But on the other hand, like I said, it could be more proof into the fact that they did get the right guy and he is in the right place. It's a shame that it all has to get dragged back up after the fact, but I often maintain, especially when we talk about the death penalty, as much as I think there is a time and a place for it, if there is even a chance that one person could be wrongfully executed, if an innocent person could be killed, then I think there is really no time and place for it. That's the problem.
Absolutely, because one person being unrightfully put to death defeats the entire purpose of the whole thing.
Exactly.
And it does happen.
Exactly.
It honestly, it made me think a lot about a case that I never really gave much thought into until we started following her on Twitter. And that's Amanda Knox.
Oh, yes.
So Amanda Knox was convicted of murdering somebody in Italy and spent quite a few years in jail and was ultimately released after it was proven that she was not the person who killed this person.
Oh my God, you watch those documentaries and when it first all happened, I very much, along with most of the world, believed that she was guilty of what they were accusing her of.
Yeah.
And then you start to learn about the fact that she basically lost any kind of due process.
Yes.
She had no choice. She was all alone. And how the Italian legal system works is very different to how you're used to.
Yes, and she was absolutely slandered by the media. I think we all know Foxy Noxy.
Yeah.
That's what they called her, right? And since seeing her tweets and everything that she's doing now to try to make it so that this doesn't happen to other people. She's even in a band. It's called like the Exonerees or something like that. And it's with a group of women who are all wrongfully convicted.
Amazing.
So she's doing all sorts of stuff. And I mean, it kind of makes me think of that because you can change your mind when it comes to these people when presented with the right evidence.
Absolutely. And I think, as much as right now my thoughts on Scott Peterson are one kind of way, if the evidence comes out and everything is proven that he is innocent, then I'm glad that they were able to change our minds.
Yeah.
If that's truly the case. I want to have my mind changed. I don't want to believe that husbands can murder their pregnant wives. Like, I hope that that's not the case.
Yeah.
But if it is Scott Peterson, I hope there's a world of hurt coming for you all over again.
I think at the end of the day, the way that I look at it is this whole thing and this whole appeal is not for his sake, it's for Lacey's sake.
That, and also the sakes of the people that may be in his particular situation to come in the future, you know?
Yep.
Do we want to switch out next with an old-timey, somewhat funny? Men aren't going to find it funny. Sorry, guys. Okay.
I'm excited. You told me a bit about this and I want to know more.
Yeah, so it first caught my eye. It's from a very old newspaper clipping from the San Francisco Call, volume 103, number 47, on the 16th of January, 1908. The headline is, "Woman on Trial is Charged with Mayhem."
Salacious.
It is. It really is. So, Mrs. Bertha Beronda at San Jose pleads emotional insanity as her defense. San Jose, January 15th. Emotional insanity brought on by extreme jealousy and suspicion of her husband's alleged relations with other women is the defense advanced by Mrs. Bertha Beronda, who is on trial in the Superior Court on a charge of mayhem. The complaining witness is Captain Frank Beronda of the local fire department. He was maimed by a wound inflicted by a razor in the hands of his wife. Mrs. Beronda, on the stand, stated that she had left her husband because of his attentions to other women.
Oh.
The male attire which she wore when she was arrested belonged to her brother, she stated, and was worn frequently as a disguise when she wished to observe her husband's actions during his 2 weeks' absence from their residence. So, I did a little more digging into Mrs. Bertha Beronda because I was like, this woman sounds like a real character.
Bertha Beronda.
So, we can't talk about Bertha without talking about the victim in this story, which was her husband, Frank, Mario Narciso Frank Beronda, and he was indeed the captain of Chemical Engine Number 1 with the San Jose Fire Department. On Friday, May 30th, 1907, Bertha insisted that her husband Frank had visited a place of prostitution. Shortly after midnight, she cut her husband's penis off with a razor while in bed. He was able to get to the firehouse, which was adjacent to their home, and received treatment in a hospital. Now, I tried to dig further to see what became of Frank and his member. They didn't say too much more about that, but he did live. Bertha was apprehended while disguised, wearing men's clothing and mounting a bicycle to make her escape. She was not found by police until more than 24 hours had passed. After her capture, Bertha admitted to her crime and expressed no regret. The newspaper reports were tactfully nonspecific. She drew a razor and cut her husband, they often said. And then apparently she walked to her nephew's room, who lived with them, and simply stated, "Frank cut himself." I think Frank would disagree with that. On June 1st, Frank Beronda made a complaint to Justice Brown from his hospital bed at the Red Cross Hospital, and then Bertha was accused of mayhem. The felony of mayhem was punishable by up to 14 years in prison and was defined by Section 204 of the Criminal Code. Quote, "Every person who unlawfully and maliciously deprives a human being of a member of his body, excuse me, or renders it useless, or cuts or disables the tongue, nose, ear, or lip, is guilty of mayhem." She was held on a $10,000 bond, which is about $335,000 today.
Dang.
At the trial, Frank testified that he and his wife had visited the San Jose theater and that her attack was unprovoked. He claimed that before this happened, she was very amorous and had invited him to her bed before the attack. The prosecution's theory was that this was a deliberate, planned attack in the furtherance of a jealous rage, but the defense had several defenses, chief among them being her complete lack of any recollection of the night in question. Bertha's just like, no, sorry, I do not remember doing
Me? No.
Never. She claimed that she became enraged at her husband and the two had an argument because she thought that he was going to leave her. She admitted that she maimed him, but still expressed no regret. As reported in the Santa Cruz Sentinel, her only excuse is that she wanted to be revenged, whom she believed her husband was deserting her and leaving for Mexico. Another defense on Bertha's behalf was that Frank had made a vile request towards her, and then that was her reaction. I don't know what they mean.
Wish I knew.
I don't know.
Romeo ankles.
Exactly. At the trial, she settled on a defense of emotional insanity from extreme jealousy. She took the stand in her own defense, never a good idea, you guys, and she explained that why she was dressed like a man when she had fled the incident. She stated that her husband had been gone for 2 weeks and she often wore her brother's clothing when she spied on her husband when he was visiting, quote-unquote, these houses of prostitution. The jury deliberated 2 hours before convicting her. Bertha was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but only served 2 and was released from prison December 20th, 1909. In the aftermath of the incident, Bertha and Frank divorced. Both Frank and Bertha later remarried to other people. Bertha married Alexander Patterson in 1921. However, the two eventually divorced.
Oh, dang.
So Bertha had a bad track record with
Yeah.
husbands, I'm afraid. But as for what happened to Frank, I can't imagine the hospital technology was like
No.
that great in 1909. So either she didn't sever it completely and they
Yeah.
managed to sort of fix it, or I don't know. You wouldn't think in 1909 you'd survive an attack like that, but Frank did. He went on to marry again.
Well, look at Lorena Bobbitt's husband. It still apparently looked not great,
Different strokes for different folks.
I guess.
I guess, you know what? If you can find someone to truly love you for that after that, then you know you got a good one on your
It's true.
side.
It's true.
So yeah, R.I.P. to poor Frank's little friend.
Okay, so this next story, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to talk about it because we don't know all the facts, but it is very big in the news right now.
Okay.
And it is really being picked up on social media,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the reasons why it is, I think, so important to talk about.
Okay.
So an 8th body has been found in New England, and they're saying it is the result of a serial killer.
Okay.
So the body of a woman was uncovered in Massachusetts earlier this week, and it's the latest set of remains recently found in the New England area where residents are growing increasingly concerned about the potential of a serial killer. So since the beginning of March, 8 people have been found, mostly women,
Oh, that's a lot.
and this is across several states, including Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. They found this latest one near a bike path near the Hall of Fame Avenue. The remains belong to that of an adult woman, but she hasn't been identified yet. They're saying that the department is going to carry out an unattended death investigation pending the result of an autopsy. And in Plymouth, a human skull was recovered in the woods off of Route 3 on the same day. And in Plymouth, a human skull was uncovered in the woods off of Route 3, and that same day, the body of a woman was found in Connecticut.
Holy cow.
So the ages of these people range from, some of them are a little bit younger, 30, 35. The oldest appears to be 59 years old. Not many of the potential victims have been identified. So authorities are saying that they've yet to uncover any evidence to connect the cases, but that hasn't stopped people from talking.
It does seem pretty coincidental that they would all be discovered around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you say they are states apart. It could be pure coincidence.
What it made me think of was quite a lot of cases that we've covered in the past, including Ed Kemper, including the Texarkana murders, where these murders are happening close to each other, but the police take a really long time to admit we have a serial killer on our hands because they don't want to admit that.
Well, no, because nobody wants that at the end of the day. And the police, you don't want to admit that and have people be absolutely terrified, especially if they don't need to be. But we've talked about it time and time again. I personally would rather you have too much caution and be wrong and haha, oh, silly us, whatever, move on with our lives, than not enough caution and see this spiral out of control. And then we get to 30 or 50 bodies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know that, budgets and all this stuff, and we don't want to spend time and energy and money if we don't need to. I think the tax-paying people of the area, whose taxes go towards paying for the law enforcement and everything, would much rather you look into it.
Absolutely.
I would. Anyway.
Yeah. So, District Attorney Anthony Gallooni said, "We understand the unease that comes with such acts of violence, and we want the community to know that each of these cases is being thoroughly investigated in close coordination with our law enforcement partners.
I hope so.
Our hearts go out to the families who are grieving." So, they are shutting down the notion that has been kind of brought up by people online, which includes a 23,000 member Facebook group.
Oh, wow.
And they're sharing their concern about a serial killer, and they're all kind of posting their own internet sleuth evidence that they've found.
For sure.
So, what he says about that is, while online conversations around these incidents continue to grow, we urge the public to be mindful of the role that social media can play in spreading the fear or misinformation. Unverified claims can compromise active investigations and contribute to a sense of chaos that does not fully reflect the picture.
I agree. It's like one of those double-edged swords where the spread of information can be so helpful, but also very dangerous if it's misinformation.
Yes. So just last Wednesday, 2 bodies were found in the woods behind a Walmart in Salem,
That's not good.
and a 30-year-old man has been arrested on 2 counts of murder for those.
Okay, so we're saying potentially that could be completely unrelated,
Yes.
or maybe that's the connection they need to
Yeah.
tie everybody else together.
Yeah.
On one hand, if that is the person responsible for those 2 deaths behind the Salem Walmart, I would be more comfortable knowing that they've captured him. If he did it all,
Yeah.
great. End of story. Hopefully we can find some closure, figure out, get to the bottom of this. But if he's not, then how many people do we have running around just murdering?
Well, that's just it.
Right? So then is it starting to become like, oh, is New England in 2025 the same as California in 1973? Do you just have several serial killers or
Yeah.
several horrible, shady people running around creating mayhem? Or is it one?
What I'm curious about was the method of murder.
Yeah.
Are they the same? Or, I mean, sometimes we have had serial killers that experiment or they escalate or things like that. But I am very curious to see where all of this leads. As always, we'll keep all of you posted. But I thought it was worth talking about because, I mean, there is that theory that at any given time, there's multiple serial killers running amok that we don't even know about, that we may never know about.
Well, and not to speculate too much here, but if this is one individual and they're covering several states, are we looking at someone that's, say, a long distance truck driver or, like a driving salesman or someone like that? I mean, that we've talked about several people that fit that bill in the past, and there's several more we could talk about in the future for sure. But that's also a scary notion as well.
Oh,
This person
absolutely.
is moving, on the move. I
Yeah.
guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
I hope they find out more and that this isn't just some odd and tragic phenomenon, but
I don't know which is worse.
me either, because like I said, at least if you find someone, boom, and that's it, and as horrific as it is, but you've got them.
Yeah.
You've got your Ed Kemper or whatever. Whereas if it's a Zodiac kind of situation where it just happens and then they disappear.
Yeah. Or are there 8 different people killing in the same
kind of
like,
area.
And again, that's what I'm saying. I don't know which is worse, if it's a serial killer or if we just happen to have 8 different murderers that are out there running around that haven't been caught. It's not good.
Stay tuned. And if you live in the area, let us know your thoughts.
Yeah. Definitely. We'd love to hear from you.
Mhm.
So my next story
Yes.
is about a unsolved murder
Okay.
that is recent. But
All right.
this happened not too long ago. There was a veterinarian in Nevada who went viral on social media for kicking a horse.
Okay, I think, you know what? This kind of rings a bell, I feel.
Yeah, so there was a video of him kicking this horse that went viral online. Lots of hate went towards him.
Yeah.
He has been found dead.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he's been found guilty. And it's like,
No.
yeah, animal abuse. Get the bastard. Oh.
Yes, so on April 18th, near the Boulder Islands at Lake Mead, the body of Dr. Sean Frenner was found. He was 56 years old. They didn't announce a cause or manner of death for him yet, but he was reported missing nearly 2 weeks prior.
Shoot.
and he was identified using dental records.
Oh.
So, a missing persons report released by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department stated that they were looking for him because he left behind his wallet, keys, and cell phone inside of his truck. His father says that his son did not have a history of medical or mental health conditions and that he's never made any threats to hurt himself or anyone else. His disappearance came just days after he was seen kicking a horse on social media. This happened on April 3rd when he was called to administer anesthetic shots for horses at a property located 60 miles west of Las Vegas. And the property owner, Shauna Gonzalez, said, "I heard my mother yell, 'Oh my God, he just kicked him. Oh my God, Mom, he's choking.' He wrapped the horse around his neck 3 times and kicked him in the head."
That's horrible.
Yes. The horse was treated for abrasions to the skull and other injuries, and she pushed for animal cruelty charges,
Yes.
which led them to open a criminal investigation against Frenner.
I should think so. You're a goddamn vet, for God's sakes. If you don't like the creatures that you're treating, you're in the wrong industry, my guy.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
So was his death connected to that?
Wouldn't be surprised because animal lovers, y'all know.
Yeah.
Man, there's not a lot I wouldn't do if I thought someone was hurting my dog. And like my family are horsey people. We have horses. If my sister caught someone kicking her horse, I think she'd probably put you at the bottom of a lake herself too.
Yeah. So they don't know if the cause of death was suspicious or if something happened, he had a heart attack and fell or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because he did leave all of his stuff behind. So was this potentially a murder? Did he take his own life? What
Is it
happened?
just some sort of karmic revenge?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll keep our ears tuned for that because I want to know.
Yeah, because I saw the headline.
Yeah.
And the first part of the headline that I saw is veterinarian goes viral for kicking a horse. And I was like, fuck this guy. This is terrible. And then it said found dead. I was like, oh. Shit.
What a twist.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely a twist for him if he was taken out by someone.
I know. I'm genuinely curious.
The thing is, when a video goes viral like that, had it not been the case, well, maybe you look at the owner of the horse, right? A family member of the horse is who you look at, obviously. But it went so viral, any slightly nutty individual with a love for animals might have taken it upon themselves.
Yeah.
Don't fuck around with animals, please.
Definitely don't. And my next story is definitely about animals fucking around. So this is from a listener of ours. Judy sent this one in, and she sent this one in after you shared your coyote story.
Okay, yes.
So this is a story from 12 years ago.
Okay.
But I thought it was hilarious, so I had to share it.
Well, thanks for sending that in.
Yes,
Judy.
thank you, Judy. The headline reads, "Wild Turkeys, an unwelcome guest for Barhaven seniors."
Oh, no.
A group of wild turkeys was disrupting traffic and harassing seniors in Barhaven. While residents want the wandering birds gone, city and provincial authorities say that there is little they can do to intervene. Lorenzo Andrews, 79, said he first noticed the birds when he went for a walk outside his seniors' residence, the Court at Barhaven. He says, "I heard the noise, looked around, and they were right by my heels. Their wings spread apart and their mouths open, coming right after me. So I ran from the corner, up here, right to the door, and they chased me right to the door. I don't usually run, but this time, I did run."
Oh, these turkeys just absolutely harassing these poor seniors.
Said he had taken to walking with a cane after this, not because he needed a cane, but for protection. And he said it was in case they attack me again.
Oh my goodness.
So the province had reintroduced wild turkeys in Ontario in the 1980s for hunting.
Okay.
But they started to thrive.
Yeah.
However, this is not usually in the suburbs. The group of 4 birds took up residence in Barhaven about 2 months prior to this, and their favorite place was the retirement home, where they gobbled up crab apples from trees on the property as well as the occasional meal left by residents. They then crossed the Longfields Road for more leftovers at a school, and then went into a place called Strandherd Drive, where they would stop traffic as they crossed.
Absolute just disruption. 4 turkeys disrupted this entire town by the sounds of it.
One of the managers at the seniors' home said one animal control company they called said the best solution was to bring dogs for the day at a cost of $75 a day to scare them away.
Oh my goodness.
The company also suggested them all using foghorns. But potentially scaring the birds onto oncoming traffic was a liability issue.
Of course, yeah.
And the manager said, "We would like to see the turkeys taken away for the welfare of our residents." And Andrews said he also wanted the turkeys to leave, saying, "I don't know why they came here, but this is not the place for them. Their place is back in the country, back in the farm somewhere."
I have heard that turkeys can be quite vicious too.
They're scary.
They're big birds.
Oh yeah, turkeys are huge.
We have by my work right now, because it is spring, a lot of the Canadian geese are returning from their southern winter holidays. And they're all over the sidewalks and stuff. Now, usually, if you're walking and you just kind of ignore them and make it clear that you're just passing through, they might give you an evil eye. They might give you the stink eye. But for the most part, they leave you alone. But some of them are quite aggressive. Like, I had a friend once who she had kind of like a flower box by her front door. And one spring, a couple, a Canada Goose couple, made a nest in her front flower.
Oh my God.
And they laid their eggs and everything, and it basically rendered her front door unusable. And she had two daughters at the time, and these geese would go for her little girls. So yeah, turkey's not a whole lot different too. They can be very territorial.
There is a lake that's like a 2-minute walk from my house, and there's probably like 50 geese in it at any given time. And I walk the dog around there, and she knows. Oh, she's never had an encounter with them, but they are bigger than her, and she sees them, and she's like,
I was bit by a goose when, on the pinky finger, when I was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, and I will never forget it.
I was raised in Slovenia, and in Slovenia, we don't have geese, but we have swans.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I was bit in the butt by a swan when I was that age.
Just like hot fuzz, aggressive swans. My goodness.
You don't mess with birds.
No, even little swallows and stuff. My mom, one of her very, very good friends, hates swallows to this day because once, or maybe more than once, when her and her younger brother were very, very little, they would have swallows living in their barn because farming country and horses and all that stuff. So they would have the swallows come back in the spring. And she said she hated them because one time her and her brother were dive bombed by them so badly that these swallows had them pinned under a vehicle. She's like, we climbed under my dad's truck to take protection, and then they wouldn't let us out. They dive.
Oh, yeah, they'll do it. They'll do
Birds, don't fuck around.
Don't fuck around with birds. All right, that brings us to our latest strange and unusual death. This is Final Destination level shit.
Okay.
So the article reads, freak tire accident kills college student at highway rest stop.
Oh no, I have nightmares about stuff like this.
A 21-year-old woman was killed at a highway rest stop. This was back in 2019.
Okay.
She was struck by a pair of tires that came loose from a passing tractor trailer.
Holy cow. So not just a little dinky tire, like a big semi-tire.
Yep. The pair of massive tires, which were bolted together and weighed roughly 500 pounds, flew off of the tractor trailer, crossed the median strip and eastbound lanes, then entered the parking lot of the rest area that she was at, walking back to the car with her friends. The tires traveled about 850 feet before hitting her.
Go.
Her name was Margaret Maurer. She was nicknamed Meg, again, only 19 years old. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The tires also damaged 2 vehicles, but nobody else was hurt. The driver of the 18-wheeler realized something had detached and pulled over as soon as he could. It's unclear what had caused the tires to come loose, but investigators believe it was a freak accident due to equipment failure, and they don't suspect any wrongdoing on the driver's part.
How you can't literally prepare for that.
No. Her mother said in a quote, "I really wanna be angry at somebody, but I can't be. It just happened. It's absolutely a random freaky thing. It's not right. There's just so much wrong about this, but it's random."
That's the thing, man. No one's necessarily at fault, not the driver, not the victim.
Mhm.
It wouldn't have mattered if nothing would have mattered.
No.
Oh, that is brutal because, like her mom said, you want to point in
Of
someone's
course.
direction,
Yeah.
right? Even for your own grief, you wanna blame and scream and rage at
Mhm.
someone. But how do you?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, I guess, you know what? The lesson I always find with things like this is live your best life.
Yep.
Because who knows what is around the corner.
It's just it.
Well, thank you very much for listening, y'all. Hope that wasn't too much of a sad note to end on.
This has been the Grim Curriculum. Extra credit. Bye.